What's up, everybody? This is OJ, aka Bulldog Pride 32, and I'm here to take you guys with a little showdown between Infamous and Prototype, two of my favorite games of the year. And we're going to get right into it. First of all, here's the upgrading screen that you have for Infamous. It's pretty cool. It's nicely arranged. There's a ton of powers to pick from to go through. And what's cool about the game is that they have the evil powers and the good powers, because you can play through the game on two different perspectives as far as, your moral actions. And what I like about, each one is that they're actually different. They're not just the same thing, but different electricity, different color, that is. They have slight tweaks to them as far as like good and evil power. So it's really fun to go through and get those. Like, for instance, like the megawatt hammer, on the good, blast radius is increased. On evil, does more damage and adds a little more like rockets for more explosion. So it's pretty cool how they did that. And of course, you have the universal powers like Pulse Heal and Bio Leech and Arc Restraint that both can do, But the Bio Leech is evil, so be careful if you're going to be good. But getting into Prototype's upgrades, to tell the truth, it's pretty crazy here because Prototype has far more upgrades than Infamous. Prototype, you upgrade your upgrades. It's quite funny actually, because when you start actually looking at how many there are in the scope of this, you're thinking, man, am I ever going to get the trophy for upgrading all of these powers? But over time, and as you collect, and as you do side quests and stuff, you get a lot of big EP bonuses and boosts, so you can get all these upgrades. But it's really nice. It makes the game have a lot of depth and a lot of replay value, so you can go through and get all the moves and try them out on different enemies. Because one thing about Prototype is like you have to try different strategies for certain enemies, because certain enemies on the harder difficulties are just going to tear you apart. So you really have to, experiment and try out some different things. But the upgrade system in Prototype is huge and is a lot more as far as sheer numbers than Infamous. But getting into the gameplay as far as movement goes, Infamous is much more chill. It's much more calm. In Infamous, you're going to be grinding on the train tracks. You're going to be climbing up stuff like you saw before. You're going to be doing stuff like that. You're going to be climbing up ledges and buildings to get away from the enemies. Because they're going to have the advantage on you. So I really like the way they did the movement in Infamous. It's, in my opinion, a bit slow, especially when you start comparing it to Prototypes. But it still works. It still, it gets the job done, and it's still fun. Like the hover. Then once you hit there, bam, you hit the grind rail, you can jump off and roll. So it's pretty cool, and it's legit. It works well for the type of game. Kind of reminds me of maybe what Mirror's Edge could have been if it was in third person, which would be a lot better. But not to get off topic. Yeah, definitely the movement is really cool in Infamous, and it almost has kind of like a magnetizing effect to it, especially like when you're jumping. They don't want you to like not be able to control it, So like when you jump on things, especially when you go to grab ledges, it kind of like magnetizes towards you so you don't fall, so you won't miss that. And I like that, because the last thing you want to do when you're playing a game, especially a game like Infamous where you're jumping a lot and you're climbing and you're a lot of platforming, you don't want to be missing things, especially if it's like a crucial mission or something like that, where there's a lot of chase missions in this game. So definitely, they have to really nail the controls here, just because of the structure of the game. And Sucker Punch did that, man. They really did. But now moving on to Prototype's controls. Now, Prototype, it's much crazier. I mean, as you can see here, you are running up buildings, you are dashing, you are gliding through the air. It's a lot crazier. It's a lot more hectic. And usually what crazier and hectic means is that the controls are a bit more crazier and hectic, and that's definitely the case here. As far as comparing it to Infamous, Prototype's controls are good. Don't get me wrong, they're definitely good, but they're not as good as Infamous. Just because of the craziness of the game. Sometimes, like, if you don't let go of the R button when you're R2 when you're sprinting up a building, you might fly up off too fast. You might be holding down X, you might jump up when when you don't want to, especially when choppers and stuff are attacking you. It definitely gets a little bit hectic, but after a while you learn to control it. But as far as movement too, though, I mean, Prototype has much more that you can do. I mean, you can jack the helicopters, like I said earlier. I mean, definitely you're fighting tanks. You can take the tanks if you want to take them too. So I mean, it's you pretty much get around the way you want to, by air or by ground or just by air and ground running through with Alex Mercer, main character, and gliding through the buildings and stuff like that. So, as you can also see on the screen here, Prototype, much more things going on, much more, I would say, GTA style than Infamous. Infamous is much more like an action adventure game. Prototype's much more GTA style. Now moving on to the scope of the cities as far as how they're how big they are and stuff like that. Infamous is broken up into 3 different parts. The buildings and everything, the size of the game is pretty good. It's fairly standard, and for the amount of detail for the graphics they have, I'm really impressed with what Sucker Punch did. They're really pulling a lot of the PS3's power. And the city's big and it's good, and there's tons of side quests to do. As you can see, those little yellow dots, those are the side quests. So it's really fun. And same goes for Infamous, or my bad, Prototype. Prototype has a ton of side quests to do, all those little things. There's a lot of variation, and the Manhattan is really well represented and really big. But really what makes Prototype stand out a little bit, as far as for people who collect trophies, you can actually track all the people you kill and stuff like that directly relates to the trophies. So that's pretty cool. Whereas Infamous, you can't really do that. You just kind of have to go, and then whenever it happens, it happens. So moving on though to more of the gameplay here, as we can see, what's cool about Infamous is that they have this whole tricks or stunt system built into the game. Where you can get bonuses for doing more flashier kills, kind of like Devil May Cry style. And it's cool because if you ride on the train tracks and then you snipe people, you get extra bonuses for that, and it's really fun, to just try to figure out all the bonuses and to earn the trophies too. So like I said, it adds replay value to the game. 21 stunts total that you can do, and they're generally all fairly, I wouldn't say easy. Some of them it ranges from easy to hard to get, but as you play the game, you'll unlock them, and the gameplay in Infamous is just superb. It's excellent. Fighting against these mini bosses and these tough enemies, it's really fun, and especially the evil side of things. I mean, you get to go over here and biolage people if you need energy, and it'll contribute towards your ranking to become Infamous. So it's just really fun gameplay-wise to play both angles, to play the good and to play the evil. But I mean, if I had to pick one, as far as which one do I like more going through the game, definitely playing through as evil. I mean, evil has so much more as far as destruction power. I mean, I really like it. I really like it a lot. And the melee combat in the game is surprisingly good too. You can do some combos, knock people off some roofs, have fun with that. And nice built-in cover system they had there. So I mean, if you're overwhelmed with enemies, you can hide behind and blast people off of rooftops. Never gets old to do that and see them fall off, And thunder dropping down too. That's also one of my favorite things to do. A lot of people gather around, and you just drop down on them, teach them not to do that anymore. But Infamous's difficulty at times, I mean, definitely, right here I'm playing the game on hard. It can get tough, especially if you're trying to fight. Screen turns gray. That means you're dying. You better start dodging and running away because they're going to gang up on you. Because the AI in this game is excellent. Moving on to now some of the good powers. The good powers, like I said, are a little bit more chill, a little bit more playing the more hero role, the Batman. I'll never kill anybody. You throw a grenade, doesn't kill them, ties them down. It straps them down so they don't get away. So I mean, that's cool, and it gives you more of a blast radius. See, that right there, that cannot happen with the evil power. The evil power, the Megawatt Hammer, pretty much the big bazooka grenade that was out. It's not going to lift cars that high into the air. Basically, it's going to blow them up more and cause more damage, but it's not going to lift them up into the air like that. So there's advantages to having good and evil powers. With Prototype's powers, it's pretty cool too. I mean, you're a shapeshifter. You have a sword. You have a claw power like Wolverine. Earlier in the video, you saw the whip fist, which is the long, stretchy arm that you have. You have a mega muscle power where you get really big muscles too. So it's pretty cool. And there's also a hammer fist power, which is easier to take down tanks and heavy armor. But all of the powers work well. But the animation, as far as playing the game, is a bit blocky. You can feel it when you're playing the game. It's a bit blocky, but it's cool. One of the other upgrades, one of the many upgrades, is definitely getting somebody, slamming them down, then power bombing them as many times as you can while they're right there. It's actually one of the funnest things to do. You can go on buildings and do that. But overall, definitely the nod definitely goes to Infamous.